Ape Canyon gets its namesake from an alleged 1924 encounter between a group of miners and a group of ape men. The miners claimed that they accidentally shot and killed one of the ape men, after which the ape men started pelting their cabin with rocks and trying to break in. How it is that a bunch of Sasquatch who are apparently capable of wandering around the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest completely unseen were somehow unable to figure out how to break into a cabin full of drunk miners is beyond difficult to reconcile. But whatever. People still look for Sasquatch in southwest Washington to this day, and it's also how Ape Canyon and the Ape Caves got their names. Even without reclusive hominids wandering about, Ape Canyon and the trail that leads to the top of it is impressive and somewhat supernatural. In fact, this whole area, being part of the Gifford-Pinchot, has a somewhat supernatural feel to it, with the leftovers from Mount St. Helens eruption only adding to that overall spookiness. Seriously, if you spend some time in the Gifford-Pinchot, it's easy to see how there are those who genuinely believe Sasquatch exists. This place positively hums with something that feels like more than human energy. The canyon itself is a gorge starting on the southwest flank of Mount St. Helens, forming a sharp gash leading down into the Smith Creek drainage. It even narrows to just 8 feet wide at one point. It's hard to really see that from Ape Canyon Trail as it follows the opposite side of the ridgeline from the canyon before dropping you off right at the top of the drainage. But if you're attentive, you can see the narrow opening for the top of the canyon from the top of Ape Canyon Trail. Look carefully down at the drainage. There's a family of marmots that lives down there. Sometimes they even come out to say hi. From Cougar, Washington, you get to Ape Canyon by driving 6.6 miles east on Lewis River Road as it becomes Forest Service Road 90. After crossing over all the hydroelectric weirdness between Swift and Yale reservoirs, you'll eventually come to this intersection with Forest Service Road 83. Go left and drive on 83 for 3 miles until you get to this intersection where you'll take a right. Just keep driving on the paved road until you cross the Muddy River drainage, and you'll see the Ape Canyon trailhead on the left right after the drainage. If this trailhead is full, there is plenty more parking at Lava Canyon a very short distance down the road. Ape Canyon Trail doesn't waste any time getting started with the climb, beginning with a punchy climb through the woods that opens up on your left side with views of the carnage wrought by the 1980 eruption in the Muddy River floodplain. After a mile and 250 feet of elevation gain on sandy, loose trail, you'll come to the first viewpoint. It's already breathtaking. Take some pictures. Don't spend too much time here, though, because, believe it or not, it just keeps getting better as you climb. After another half mile of grinding climb, the trail will flatten out for about a third of a mile before you get to the most intense, sustained climb on this ride. You get what you pay for on this trail, because this 1.25 miles that climbs 800 feet over 5 switchbacks drags you through some of the most awe-inspiring forest in the world. Keep in mind that you're almost 4,000 feet elevation here, and look how big those trees are. Yeah. They're old. These trees survived the blast in 1980. They are the few and the proud, and it is your privilege to ride past these old giants. Every exposure gets brushed in pretty quickly, and if you're riding this trail early season, then there will be a lot of underbrush. Usually the local builders and maintainers get to it by the end of the summer, and then it's golden. But even if you think it's brushed out, stay vigilant, as there are lots of little obstacles hiding out both overhead and underfoot. At the end of the insane climb, there will be a half-mile section that loses 200 feet of elevation. It also pops out onto this scary but insanely beautiful exposure. Just be careful to keep your eye on the trail. There are so few places you get to view a landscape like this. Keep climbing, though, because it just keeps getting better. Over about a 1/4 mile after this view, you'll go downhill a little bit, then uphill, and then the trail pops out right here at this miraculous sight for sore eyes, the Ape Canyon viewpoint. This is the top of Ape Canyon, and it's where you can catch a commanding view of both Mount Rainier and Mount Adams, not to mention the looming presence of Mount St. Helens behind you. The scale here is truly breathtaking. It confuses your senses to the point that it's hard to believe what it is you're looking at. Everything from here on up is recovering moonscape. Shrubs and stunted trees are starting to recolonize these places, but it's slow going. If you look around, you can see volcano monitoring stations up here. There are also likely to be mountain goats. Don't stop at this viewpoint, though, because there's yet more spectacle ahead. Start heading west on what is now the Abraham Trail. Walk your bike across this terrible traverse while keeping ears and eyes out for the marmot family that lives below this traverse. They're adorable, those cuddly marmots. Also, don't fall into Ape Canyon. Sasquatch will get you, and you'll probably die from the physical trauma from the fall. Over the next half mile, there are some sketchy creek crossings, and you gain another 300 feet in elevation, although it doesn't really feel like it because you're so disoriented by the scenery at this point that you're not really comprehending anything you're seeing or experiencing. It'll take you some time at home to process this experience. Presently, you'll reach this outcropping, which affords more spectacular views before the trail hangs a left and then climbs very gradually for the next mile until you reach the junction with the Lowit Trail. Here is where you get to make a decision. You can either continue on Abraham Trail until you get to Windy Ridge Observatory, but that will add a lot of mileage and elevation, or you can turn around now. Continuing your ride is the better way of getting to Windy Ridge I talked about in the Lewis River video. Seriously, the last time I showed up at Windy Ridge on my bike, the people who'd just driven their cars on 50 miles of relentless curvy roads looked twice as exhausted as any of us on our bikes felt. Do your butt a favor. If you're going to visit Windy Ridge, ride your bike there from Ape Canyon. It's an 11-mile bike ride versus a 50-mile car trip. There may be over 3,000 feet of elevation gain on that bike ride, but it sure beats all that windshield time. You can ride Smith Creek as an added bonus if you're a real masochist. Anyhow, the junction with Lowit is a good turnaround point. If you turn around here, you'll have netted yourself a good 2,200 feet of climbing over 12.5 miles by the time you get back to the car. Alright, so now it's time to talk about something important. You can only do this 3, maybe 4 times a year, and it'll be one of the greatest experiences of your life. Instead of riding to the Plains of Abraham during the day, you need to do one full moon night ride up here. Best time of year to do this is August or September, when the sun sets a little earlier. Check your calendar and figure out when there's a full moon during the summer months when there's no snow on the trail. If it's on a weekday, you're just going to have to take the next day off work. This is important. There is nothing in the world that comes close to what this place feels like in the cold, silvery moonlight. This overwhelms your senses more than anything else up here. A camera can't do this justice, but you can see everything in the moonlight. You can see Mount Rainier, you can see Mount Adams. If you find the right exposures, you can see all the way to Mount Hood as well, all in the moonlight. And of course, the looming presence of Mount St. Helens dominates this entire scene, and it just glows, it just shines. You could almost ride the plains without a light. Almost. Make sure you bring at least 2 very bright lights. This is still a night ride. But seriously, this ride comes alive at night. This is when it is the best it can be. You get to see the moonlight shimmering off the muddy river far below as if you're inside someone's fantasy. Your mind insists that this isn't real. It's even better to come up here with friends, to turn around and see a succession of lights creeping up or down the hill as it follows the curve of the trail in the dark. It somehow makes what you're doing feel simultaneously important and insignificant. Everything falls into perspective on rides like this, and you're not even high. It's just pure sensory experience making you feel this way. This will be one of the moments you remember for the rest of your life. Do this ride on a full moon in the summer at least once in your life. Thank me later. Okay, now go back the way you came. The ride back is pretty much just as fast at night as it is during the day. Once again, watch out for brush, and this is where you want to be really aware of what's hiding at about ankle level under the bushes. There are rocks and roots under there just itching to grab a pedal and throw you over the bars. As awesome as this downhill is, this is not the place to pin it. There are hikers during the day and frogs at night. Seriously, there really are frogs on the trail at night. Big ones. If you're not careful, you'll run right over them, so be careful. They're really hard to see. Remember that after the initial downhill, you'll have to climb back up that downhill interlude you enjoyed on the way up here. After that, it's mostly smooth sailing with very few pedal strokes until you get back to the car. It typically takes about 2 hours to climb to Lowit Junction and an hour and a half to get back down. Ape Canyon to the Plains of Abraham is spectacular no matter what time of day you ride it. So come ride it whenever you can, because most importantly, this is just one more way that you can get out there and go ride your bike.